Have you been experiencing internal financial struggles triggered by economic concerns? Are you feeling capped at your current income level and can't seem to realize your financial potential? Energy healer Gene Border has created an emotional freedom technique, or EFT, tapping protocol to help calm the inner voice that keeps you stressed. Claim your free copy at geneborder.com/vow and say goodbye to those financial blockages. Welcome to another episode of the Focused Practical Dreamer's Journey podcast, Energy Work to Better Your Business, hosted by energy healer Gene Border. It's not just about dreaming, it's about making those dreams a practical reality. Subscribe to us via your favorite network by visiting our website at www.focusedpracticaldreamer.com. Now, get ready. Your journey to success starts here.
Hello, everyone. It's your host, Gene Border, with another episode of the Focused Practical Dreamer's Journey podcast, where we talk everything energy, mindset, psychology related to growing your small business. I have a special guest with me here today. I've had several conversations with Michael, and I'm excited to share him with you. But before we get there, let me remind you, if you're having any financial stress or some decisions coming up that you're really not sure about, grab the PDF below. Just click on the link. It's geneborder.com/vow. It's some EFT tapping protocols to help you calm down your nervous system so that you can make your financial decisions from a place of calm instead of a place of reaction or fear. And decisions made in calmness are typically serving your better interest than ones made from a place of fear or reaction. So try that out. Let me know how it goes for you. geneborder.com/vow. And now on to my special guest, Michael Forman. Hi, Michael. How are you?
Gene, how are you? I'm so glad to be here today.
Cool. So I'm going to just tell everybody straight up, you're the networking guy, right?
I'm the networking guy. Yep.
Communications, networking, all that kind of cool stuff. Tell us a bit about you.
All right. Well, about 100 years ago, I was in the Air Force. I'm a Desert Storm veteran. And from there, I was in there for about 9 years. And as I went from the Air Force into my own business, I owned a graphic design studio. I owned a pizzeria, restaurants. I did all the small business thing with my brother. And we really got it to such a point where we obviously made enough and sold it. And I went into work for a mortgage company. I work for a law firm. But all of this has to do with networking and communication. And you don't feel good about yourself until you can communicate effectively. And what I mean by that, you can't go through life just going through life and if you don't communicate well, then you're not going to be happy. Okay. So all of this is based around my networking, which is, if you're in a business world, a small business, whether it be pizzerias or restaurants, whether you want to stay that small business or want to get larger or busier or better, then all of this comes around.
Cool. So my dad was Air Force. I'm throwing that out there. I was DOD for many years. So there's a camaraderie, a family that comes with the military. Now, some people don't fit, but some people do. And the communication part of that is critical if you want to, I'm going to use the word survive in that world. They have a language all their own. If you want to understand what's going on, you need to learn so many acronyms. Oh my gosh. One part of my career, I transferred over to Italy, and I was sitting in on briefings. I didn't know even what the heck they were talking about. And I'd had, decades with DOD at that point. But if your audience or the person you're trying to talk to doesn't understand what you're saying, what's the point?
Exactly. Exactly. And it's how you are, how you portray yourself. You have to, when you go out and you communicate with others, you have to be confident. And that confidence shows. Because if you're not confident in what you're talking about, not confident in what you're doing, people really can see that, right? And they will really kind of like shy away from you because you're not somebody that they want to be around. But if you show your confidence, show that you really know what you're talking about, then you'll see more and more people want to be around you.
But how do you build that? If you're not comfortable talking with people and you don't even understand what they're trying to say, how do you come across as confident?
Well, well, there's two types of people: introverts, extroverts. Now, the extroverts really is the easiest one because the extrovert will go into a networking situation and do everything that I'm suggesting, and I'll go through that a little bit later on. But the introvert, that they need a little help, a little push, but they can do it also. There's a lot of times where the introverts want to get out into the field. They want to get out and actually do what they're trained to do, but they don't know how. They don't know how to talk with somebody, how to be with somebody, how to respect the other person's opinions and then wait for a response. All of that takes practice. But you know what? The more that they do it, the more they'll get out. Um, it's really everything will just, it'll be good.
I'm going to be quite open here. In my world, I'm an introvert. When I'm at work, I'm not. And so it is very possible, even though it can be so scary for some people, it is very possible for you to become, even if you're just acting, an extrovert in certain situations. You only have to do it for a short amount of time. Events typically don't last all that long. And you're not what I call on all that long. And yes, it can be stressful, but if you do it once and you survive it, and sometimes that's
Exactly.
If you survive it, the next time won't be quite as traumatic internally, maybe.
I tell everybody to start small. If you're an introvert, you don't want to start in a conference, in a summit, because you walk through the doors, you go, oh my goodness, I'm leaving. Start like a chamber of commerce. Chamber of Commerce, go to their meetings, and they usually have after hours meetings where people can network and meet. And that's a much smaller crowd. When I say smaller crowd, I'm saying 20 to 50 people. So that right there can be a little inundating. But you know what? When you're an introvert, you kind of walk into it and you go right to the wall to assess the situation. And you know what? And if you're there, and if you're not, if you're an extrovert and you're used to going to these meetings and you see somebody do that, very simple. You take it upon yourself to walk over to them, introduce yourself, say, hi, what do you do? So, oh, my name is Jen Border, and I do this, I do that, Well, something that's great because that table over there filled with people that would love to hear what you have to say. Come on, let's go. And you go over and you introduce them and say your niceties, whatever. And then you bow out and you go away. Well, what did you just do for yourself? You, in your eyes, in Jean's eyes, you lifted, you're saying, well, you know what? Michael's a great guy and I'm going to remember him. So you kind of alleviated that whole situation and you let them go and do it. And I'm not saying that the first time is like, oh, I'm okay. I'm now an extrovert, But if you go, I always say, put networking into your calendar, go to 1 or 2 times per month. And by the fourth or fifth meeting, you'll see how much easier it gets.
Yeah, like I was mentioning, the first time I went to a briefing, I didn't have a clue what people were saying. And so my technique when I'm in those situations is to shut up and listen and become a sponge and see what the conversation is and how they use terms, right? It's how the terms are couched can give you an idea of the context. And so maybe you're not quite as lost as you thought. Maybe you are.
Yeah, but what you said was very important. What you said was you listen. And so that, as part of the scheme of things on how you get these clients or referrals or relationships, you walk up to a table in a networking event, you don't start talking. You listen. You listen for the conversation. Is this a conversation I want to be part of? And if it's not, you haven't said anything yet, you politely bow out, go to the next table. But if it is, then you wait for that time when you can inject something smart, I hope. You're going to say something, and you're going to hope that the 4 or 5 people, of the 4 or 5 people, let's say 2 of them respond to what you had to say. So now you kind of like focus on those 2 people, and you go over and you say, okay, well, what's your name? Oh, great. What do you do for a living? Let them talk. People love to talk about themselves. And if you let them talk about themselves, then you'll see that the trust factor increases a little bit. And you let them and say, you know something? I like what you do. I like how you do it. How can I be the best referral source for you? So the name of the game is, when you go to these meetings, these networking events, you're always saying, how can I get business? Or I want new clients. I want new. Wrong. Okay. You have to look to give, not receive. Okay. So the more you give, the better you look in everybody's eyes. And then is the more you'll receive.
So many times feeling uncomfortable can lead us to maybe not come up with the best opening lines. So maybe in those situations, the question is the best thing. You hear a conversation, you want to be a part of it, ask them a question about what they just said.
Well, you first, you say your, let's say, first 2 sentences, because you want to get that thought across to them, and you end that 2 sentences with a question, because that's the best way. Because if you said something interesting enough, that's why it's important, and you ask a question, you're going to get a response, and you'll start that conversation going back and forth. So that's right. So if you end it with a question, because I always, whenever I go, me myself personally, go into that type of situation, I always end it with a question, because I'm always looking for that response.
Also, it's a good way. We think as soon as we walk in a room, it's very easy to think, oh, they're going to judge me. Well, the opposite is also true. You're making judgments about them. Are they a good fit for your personality, for your business, for your agenda for that day, right? So judgment is a two-way street. So sometimes it can feel debilitating, like, oh no, somebody's going to judge me. Well, aren't you there to do the same thing?
Yeah. And you're doing the same thing. And without even realizing it, you're doing the same thing. But the trick is, especially if you're a small business owner, because you don't have 50 people working for you. Okay. So it's basically you. And, I did a workshop in Ohio, to a matter of fact, and I spoke with somebody. It's a larger roofing company. And there's about 5 salespeople there, but there were 50 people in the audience. And it was salespeople, support people, people from the warehouse and everything. And one of the questions I asked was, who here is in sales? And 3 people raised their hand. I said, you're wrong. Everybody's in sales. How about the CEO? How is he in sales? No, he owns the company. Wrong. He's in sales. I don't care how big your company is. The owner is always in sales. He's always trying to promote his business. So now the best way to be now, I'm a small business, I had it where I was a solo practitioner and I had about 15 employees for my restaurant. So anywhere in between, you never forget how you got there. You're always trying to do better. So you're always going out there to try to improve your conversations. You're always out there trying to improve the way that you network. And it all comes back around. So I don't care whether you're there by yourself or you have 15 or 20 employees, you're all in the same boat. And how you go about it is slightly different, but not very different.
That's a very important point that I think a lot of people miss. I'm going to go back to your roofing example. The guys getting on my roof are the guys that I see. Those become the face of the company while they're on my property. So how they interact with each other and how they interact with me has a huge influence on my judgment of the company and whether I will refer it to someone else.
Exactly. Exactly. And, that workshop that I did, I had some of the best questions from the guys who worked in the warehouse. They're all like, how do I do this? Or, a client came to our warehouse and I said, well, remember, you're the face of the company. You're what the customer sees. So when you do something or tell them something or give them a piece of advice, follow up with them. Follow up with the main office and say, look, I told this person to do this, that they should call you. Did they call you? If not, I'm going to call them and see what else I can do for them. It's that little bit extra that you can do that you'll be the referral for everybody. But yes, the people going out, doing your roof, doing your lawn, doing whatever, they are the face of your company. So you have to be very careful on who that person is.
And you have to teach them that you expect them to be the face of your company, right? Absolutely. If you're on the clock, you are XYZ Roofing. When people come to you, you are XYZ Roofing. You make or break us, right?
Absolutely. Well, the mortgage company I work for, my brother and I started. We were two people, and we built it up to 15 loan officers and 9 back office people. We built up a pretty nice company. But every Friday at 7:30 in the morning, from 7:30 to 8:30, we had a meeting. And it was all about relationships, all about how you go out and you speak with everybody. Because once you leave the office, you're us. That's what they're looking at. They're not looking at you, they're looking at us. And you have to make it right. And so every Friday, like clockwork, from 7:30 to 8:30, we had that meeting. People always like, oh, I can't believe we have this meeting at 7:30 on a Friday. Well, would you like it at 5 o'clock on a Friday? So you have to really, get them. But it was such a point where we had other people bringing in coffee, donuts, whatever the case may be. We made it a little more fun than just a regular meeting, but the training was there because they are the face of the company, and they were our face.
Training is huge. Just a little bit off topic, but not really, since you brought it up. But I, as a leader, would force training when everyone had to be there, so they all heard the same information at the same time. They could make their own judgment about it later, but everybody heard the same information at the same time, so we had one path moving forward.
Yeah, that brings you into another realm, especially small business owners. If you're in a medium-sized company, there's a big difference between a boss and a leader. And a smaller company, you're the leader regardless, okay? Because it's you. But, the best way I can explain it is a boss just regurgitates the orders. do this, do this, do this, do it by 5 o'clock, and I'll see you later. Whereas the leader will say, okay, you have to do this, this, and this. Are you okay with that? Can I show you this? Let me go through with the first client and let me show you, and build up their respect for you as well as you for them. But you're not leaving anything to chance. And that makes your team that much better.
That brings up another aspect of that, and that's consistency. Having the same rules apply to everyone. Yes, there can be exceptions, but just because somebody comes crying with this, that you set a precedent, and you're either a strong leader and you value your mission and your vision, or you don't. And people will follow your example. If they can't trust you to apply the same rules to everyone in the company, you're setting yourself up for internal issues.
Well, I'm a military guy, so consistency, that's key. Okay. And if you're consistent, then there's no, but what about this? Or you did this way this time and not that way that time. There's no wavering. Okay. You have to be consistent. And it leads you to, with networking, there's a mantra. Okay. If they know you, if they like you, if they trust you, they'll do business with you. And the way to build up that trust is to be consistent. Okay. Because if you do this time and that time, they're not sure on how they can trust you. So if you build it up, you'll be fine.
Yeah, I used to get flack because of the days that I would schedule trainings. But in the end, I mean, then I retired from that position. And, years later, oh, we wish we had somebody, that had more knowledge than us because, so even though they complained, they really valued that. And they respected the fact that there was not disparate treatment between the staff members.
You can't expect respect until you give it. Okay. So if you respect their time, you respect their knowledge, and that you respect everything about them, then they will in turn learn and respect you for it. They probably won't realize it until you leave.
Yeah, it's too funny. I mean, they complain and complain and complain, and I just was steadfast. You knew it was coming. Been on the books.
That's it.
But I need to make it. No, you don't.
No, you don't. Not really.
No. Oh, but I'm only in town. No, you've been in town for the last on and off for the last 6 months. You had time to make that appointment at another time.
That's right. That's right. So
it's just too funny. But I used to laugh internally at all the reasons they would come up with for not really having to attend that specific thing that everyone knew was mandatory, 9 months ahead of time. Pretty funny. Right. I have to laugh. But they value it now, looking back.
Well, after the fact, sure.
And
everybody values it. They kind of wish you were back there.
Yeah. Well, in some ways, I mean, when your previous employees contact you to go out to dinner, that's such a nice feeling. It really is.
It's a nice feeling.
Because they didn't have to do it. It's not part of a program where I'm going to recognize you. They just wanted to spend time in my company.
Well, if you do different things, depending on the size of your business, what your business is, they always, they say that the customer is always right. And that is so wrong.
Yeah.
Okay. If you're in business for yourself, you have a small business. No, the customer isn't always right, but you have to make sure your employees are happy. You have a happy employee, they're going to promote that to your clients. Okay. If you have a disgruntled employee, they're going to show that. Okay. And your clients won't always be happy, but there's that consistency that's saying, look, these are the rules. This is what you got, and so on and so forth. So, and it's how you respond to those nasty clients. And, I have to say, the days of building your clientele are over. Okay. Ever since the pandemic, people are doing this through Zoom. through something else, and they don't have that personal touch. But if you're a small business owner, you have nothing but the small personal touch. And that's where I'm bringing us all around again. That's where the importance of the networking, of the communication, everything is so important, not only for you, but everybody that works for you.
Teaching communication skills to your staff is such an important piece of your business, whether it's something you've been aware of or not. I see so many stories on social media now where, oh, I went up to this XYZ restaurant and the manager told off a customer. Never, 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 never. Do you know how much business they've now lost because they have no faith in that company?
Absolutely. Absolutely. It's not only the manager's job, but the waitresses, the maitre d', everybody else, it's all their job to be happy and accommodating and everything else. I was a restaurant owner and I was called so many times to come over because they were irate. And my waitresses or maitre d', they have one shot. They have one shot. And if they were wrong, that's their one shot. I retrain them on what they should have done to respond to somebody like that. If it happened again, then they didn't work for me. Okay, because I demanded that level, and they should always the customer should always have that happiness, that friendliness, and everything to go along with the food. But you have to have that bit of, and of course my military came out because I had to have it a certain way. And I had a little leeway in there. Okay, I had it. But you had that one shot. Okay, and that's the way you handle it.
Well, either they're trainable or they're not, right?
Right. Well, I find that out real quick, but every customer who yelled and screamed wasn't always right.
Exactly.
Okay, so I had to go in and see what was happening, what was the cause of it, and everything else. And if I just said, and I never sent the waiter away. I said, I'll handle this. No. He's going to stay right there, and he's going to watch me handle it. And if they're right, if they're wrong, whatever the case may be, whether I had a compliment meal or something else, that was fine. But he was always there with me. I never sent him away. And as a small business owner, that's a teaching moment. And you always use those moments to teach. And after everything was over, I then brought the waiter to the side and I talked to him for about 5 minutes, explaining what had happened and how I reconcile. So you never stop learning.
Yeah, learning to diffuse a situation can be intimidating if you've never had experience in that realm. And so it is really great when you do have a manager who can keep their head, who can hear both sides, and then make a judgment on how to diffuse the situation. Regardless if he's right or wrong, that's a situation that needs to be diffused. And that's a skill that you learn.
Exactly. And I had to learn how to do that, because when I was 25 years old and in the service, no way. But as I got older and I got involved with different businesses and different things, I learned how to diffuse that situation and keeping everybody happy.
Mentors and coaches can really help, especially if you find yourself repeating the same not great experience. There's something going on. There's a piece missing to the puzzle that you need to figure out so that it doesn't continue to repeat.
Exactly. Yep, exactly.
So let's get back to networking events. There's all kinds of networking events that people can go to. You mentioned Chamber of Commerce. There's something called Meetup. Have you heard of that?
Sure. Meetup.com. And you put in your zip code and you get all the networking and meetings and parties all around your area. And they have people from 5 people to 100 people. Some items, sometimes you have to pay, sometimes you don't. But that's a great way to start, to get out there and to meet people and to talk with them and network with them. And it's all how you network, but it's more important how you follow up than actually meeting the people. Okay. And what I mean by that is, I was at a networking event, and I ask everybody about networking and how they do it and everything else. But he goes, oh, I send them an email the next morning, and if they don't respond, 4 or 5 days later, I send them another email. 4 or 5 days later, I send them another email. I said, okay, thank you, because that was 100% the wrong way to follow up. I said, if you and I were in a competition, I won. I won. So what I do is, let's say you meet somebody at the networking event and you want to take their business card. Now I've gone to networking events. I've come home with 150 business cards. I've looked at them and go, I don't even remember what this person looked like. So my suggestion is to only take about 15 or 20 business cards from like a 3 or 4 hour event. Because on that business card, after you go through everything in this whole process, what you do before you get that business card, but you write down the date, the name of the function, and something you talked about on the back. So when you go back home or back to the office, you say, oh, I remember that person. We talked about his son, and that's how you do it. But you immediately write a thank you email. Hi, Gene, this is Mike. I met you at such and such event. Thank you for taking your time for meeting me. Good luck, Mike. That's it. No business involved. I didn't do anything. And you send that. The next morning, you write your handwritten thank you cards. Yep. In my briefcase, I have a stack of thank you cards. And you handwrite, hey, Gene, how you doing? This is Mike. I remember me. I met you at such place, such time. We talked about your son. He was in Little League. He got hurt. I hope he feels better. Michael. And you send it. Now, could you imagine being in your office, being at your desk, and all of a sudden you receive this thank you card? I just elevated myself so much above the competition. It's not even funny. So the way I work it is this. There's a 20% chance you're going to get a response from the first email. I just upped the percentage to about 50 or 60% when I sent that thank you card. And let's say I still haven't gotten a response in 3 or 4 days. I send an email. Hey, Gene, this is Mike. Talked about your son. Remember that? Okay. I just looked at my calendar, and Tuesday and Wednesday of next week are open. Will either one of those days be good for you, Michael? And we'll see if you respond with that email. Now, I just increased that 60% up to about 70 or 75% of a chance of me getting a response. Now, I'm looking for a positive or negative response. Either way, I'm fine with it. Just tell me one way or the other. So that all, and if I still don't get a response, if you're that horrible of a person, no. If I haven't gotten a response yet, I'll send them another email about 3 days later, and I'll say, hey, Gene, this is Mike. It's Tuesday. I looked at Tuesday and Wednesday. Tuesday seemed to have filled up, but how's Wednesday at 3 o'clock? If you're still that type of a person where you didn't respond to me, you're not going to respond. But don't throw that card out, because you're going to take that person's information, put it into your CRM, and put them onto a drip campaign. And that's good for the small business, the person, if you're by yourself, or a medium-sized business, whatever the case may be. Now you're getting to the point of using the CRM. And because the worst thing you can do is Okay, that's it. Forget about it. I myself, I just did a breakout session for a conference, and that event planner I've been talking to for a year. A year. I've been sending an email once every 6 weeks. Send an email, never responded. Not once, not one response. A year later, I have an opening and I need a speaker regarding communication. Would you be interested? Yeah, I'll be interested. But it took a year. So you never know.
You mentioned something that I want to touch on because I hear so many things. The more networking you do, you hear, this. Someone got the bright idea that business cards are obsolete and shouldn't be used, and you should just use, yeah. Business cards are just little teeny tiny pieces of paper that jog someone's memory. I get so many emails, everybody does, and some of the people I've met, some of them I haven't. But the business cards, I can look at that a year from now, and if it's the roofing company, right? Oh, they did a good job, and they were really nice to me, and I can still refer that out. I'm not going to go through all my millions of emails that I get all the time, right? When I already know that I had personal interaction with that point of contact on that card. It costs $30 or something, and depending on you could pay a lot more for business cards. It's almost nothing in the grand scheme of things versus what you'd pay for a Facebook ad or all those other things, right?
There's a few things to remember about your business card. It's not a billboard. It's your business card. Your name, contact information, really that's it. Design is very important, and that's fine. I hear a lot about the electronic business cards out of your phone. Oh yeah, just have your phone and touch my phone and you'll have all my contact information. Well, that's great if I'm going to sit there and touch your phone and you have to have your phone out and everything else. I don't necessarily believe that. I tell everybody, you can't have a distraction when you're speaking with somebody. And what's the number one distraction? Your cell phone. Silence it, put it in your pocket, give the other person 100% of your attention. Believe me, they know it. It goes a long way. If your phone goes off and you glance down, now, what does that do? Okay, so you don't have 100% of my attention, you have 95%. Okay, that's 95%. I should have 100% of your attention. Okay, so if you follow that and you put your cell phone away, I'm not going to take my phone out and you can touch it. Okay, and the business cards, you can organize them. Now, listen, when I was in the mortgage business, I had a shoebox filled with business cards. Oh, I might, or who is that? Or I just, now it's just, I have a simple little book binder, and every event I go to has about 15 cards. That's it. And I put them into my CRM and I am in contact with them. Okay, so I know what you're saying. The business cards are outdated. No. If you have a nicely designed business card with your contact information, they're going to keep it.
And the electronic business cards, they drive me nuts. I'm sorry, but they do. I met one guy that it's still in my head. I don't know his name. His contact is in my phone somewhere with all the other hundreds of contacts. I can't find him. There's nothing that makes him stand out because he's somewhere in here.
Yeah. It's and the electronic. I have one. It's a card with all my information, and I touch your phone, and you can have all my contact information. That's one step above the electronic version. Okay, so I can take that card out, touch your phone, and you can do everything you can and put my contacts away. You know what? when you're in that networking event, there's really not enough time to do that. And if you're going to give your card to somebody, then it's somebody that you've had a conversation with and you're going to remember them. And the art of handing somebody your business card is all part of the whole part of the magic. You know, there is and there's a certain way you hand off your business card to that contingency. You know, you have to place their card in their hands and give them your card that way. You're not just here, take it. Okay. So, you know, during my presentation, I'm showing you have to show respect and courtesy for the person you're dealing with, but you don't know. So you have to be that much more careful. And it's not just, I was at a table with 4 or 5 people in a networking event, and the guy comes walking up to us with his business cards. Here, take my card. Wham, 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 wham. 5 cards. Listen, let me have your cards because I want to get to know each and every one of you, but I'm going to talk to everybody here. I'll talk to you later. Goodbye. And we sit there with the cards, like, you know, and we all threw the card away. You know, so that's not, you know, you have to treat business cards like they're money. And you only hand them out to certain people. That's what the way you should consider a business card.
What about the idea of the small books replacing the business cards? I've seen people do that. I find it interesting. They cost about $2 a book, I guess, to print. Their 3x5, something like that. Maybe 20 pages. That's like to promote my business. Have you run into that?
I mean, like B&I offers a little book that you can slip all the business cards into.
No,
No.
this is my roofing company, and it's got the picture, and you open it up, and these are our services, and tells a story about the company. But it's like,
It's a very
maybe
expensive.
a 20-page little, almost like a pamphlet, but it looks like a book. And they give out that instead of business cards.
Well, if they're giving that out, then they're doing very well. Okay, because that's really expensive.
Yeah.
You know, and so you're not trying to, if you go to a big networking event like that and you see the masses of people, what are you going to have a whole truckload of those things behind you? No, you know, you're like, all right, just let me have another one because it's not going to work. So I haven't heard of that. You know, I would think that that is something that you keep back in the shop, back in the restaurant, back in the office, whatever. And there, in case people want it, they can pick it up and know all about you. But if you're going out to an event, the whole main idea is for you to speak with them and get to know them. And if you give them all that information, they really don't have to talk to you. Okay, but if you give them your business card, then you'll contact them and you talk with them, meet with them, talk about their families and everything else. You can get a lot more out of it. Get a lot more out of the single business card than that whole booklet.
Yeah, I have, like most of us, my business morphs over time as far as what I'm focusing on, right? So I have different business cards for like the people who want leadership support, right? I've got a business card for that. People who just want the holistic healing side. Well, I've got another energy related card for that. They look totally different. One is the blues and the very professional, and the other is like the water and, you know, the feeling of that, right?
Right.
So
Right.
I like business cards. What can I say?
Yeah. And what do you do when you let's say that you were going to get a little book like that for yourself? You're going to have that whole booklet for the leadership, that whole
Yeah.
booklet for the energy, the whole book, you know, and it'll cost you a fortune by the time you're finished.
But I do know people who do it. I mean, I've received them, you know, they just have
Yeah.
them in their pocket and they pass them out like business cards.
Yeah. I don't know. That's a little too rich for my blood.
So you're all over the internet, right? What's your website?
My website, and I don't know if they can see it or not, but it's michaelaforman.com. On there, you'll see all the different podcasts that I was on, my different talks, leadership and networking communication talks. I'm part of a speakers bureau. You can get to it from there. You can join a mailing list, but on the bottom of it is the most important one. It's a contact form, and you just fill that out. Because if you want to contact me, I'll get back in contact with you within 24 hours. But we'll discuss anything, because I do, besides the keynotes and the breakout sessions, I do workshops and coaching one-on-one. And really lately it's been 1-on-5, because there have been so many, like I go to high schools and their speeching or their DECA class or DECA, whatever. I say, okay, I give a talk to the school for free. But when I coach, I'm coaching about 5 students at a time. And that costs a little bit. But that's the best way to get hold of me. Go onto my website, look at what I have, give me a call, give me a contact form, and we'll discuss anything.
Cool. So you're also on LinkedIn, Facebook, Instagram, YouTube.
Yes. Well, LinkedIn is my number one place to go, because that is, for me, it's business.
I agree.
And you'll see my I don't want to say ads, because they're really not ads. They're just ways of telling you how to network, how to communicate, leadership, all different little things for you to remember that you can do immediately. And I post the same thing on LinkedIn, Facebook, and Instagram, because I have, 6,000 or 7,000 contacts on LinkedIn. I have 5,000 or 6,000 on Facebook, about 1,000 on Instagram. So, I get to different parts of the people. But that's really the best way. And really, I have some really good insights. On my website, by the way, I call it an abridged version of my book, and that I give away for free. It's a PDF. You just download it and you can read it right then and there. It gives you the major steps of what to do, of how to network and communicate properly.
Cool. So that's a resource our listeners should pay attention to. Hint, 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 hint.
Yeah.
You can either go straight to his website, or you can click on the link below. We'll have all his links to all his social media places right there in the show notes. Just click on the link. It'll take you right there. So we're coming up on the end of our time together. Do you happen to have any final words for our listeners?
You know what? Final words is, if you remember anything, remember those thank you notes, the handwritten thank you notes. Nobody does that except for the people that are listening to me. Okay. Nobody does that. And it elevates you and your company one step above of your competition. So go out, just buy, blank thank you notes, says thank you right on top. Write down a thank you note to the person, put your business card in, and send it to their office or whatever's on the business card. And that itself will bring you one step above your competition, and you'll thank me for it later.
Cool. Everybody go out and buy some thank you cards. You probably have some sitting around your house you've never used.
Probably.
And so that's going to be it for us for today. Thank you, Michael Forman, Michael A. Forman on the website, for coming and having such a fun conversation about communication and networking and being consistent. Thanks for being here. I want to thank the listeners also for tuning in again. Every Tuesday we drop a new episode. I really enjoy our time together, and I hope that you get something really useful out of all these shows, because that's why I do it, also to have fun. But that's going to be it for today for the Focused Practical Dreamers Journey podcast. This is your host, Jean Border. Until next time.
We trust you enjoyed this episode of the Focused Practical Dreamers Journey podcast. Energy work to better your business. Hosted by energy healer Jean Border. Remember to visit our website at www.focusedpracticaldreamer.com and enjoy even more great episodes like this one. Again, while you're here, subscribe to us via your favorite network. We look forward to seeing you next time on the Focused Practical Dreamers Journey.